any type of skill gap they may have. It may be big, it may be small. The participants can use the on-the-job training program as a marketing tool when they're interviewing for positions, kind of hoping to give them an edge over someone else who would be applying for the position. To be honest with you, the on-the-job program works really, really well with small to medium, large employers. The benefits of the program, the financial incentive, usually don't hit the Nikes and the Intels as strong as they would a small to medium sized employer. So how the program really works in a nutshell is, let's say an employer is deciding whether or not decided to hire someone who is missing a component of what the job requires. It may be a software package. It may be, you know, I don't know, any skill in a particular area that they may be missing. They would negotiate with the Trade Act program a reimbursement system. What I mean by that is, if an employer decides to hire a participant in the Trade Act program for a position, they can be reimbursed up to, key phrase there, up to 50% of their wages for up to a 2-year period. That's all negotiated depending on how much training that person may need. So they get 50% reimbursement I did it myself, up to 50% reimbursement. So you can see where for small to medium sized employer, that wage reimbursement might be a really good incentive to hire someone who has that skill gap over someone who has everything. The goal being that at the end of the on-the-job experience, that person is a permanent employee, becomes a permanent employee. There is the potential through the on-the-job training program that while they're in training, if the employer is asking for a certification or additional credentialing, that can also be worked into the on-the-job training contract with Trade Act. Now, in order for a participant to qualify for an on-the-job training opportunity, that opportunity must pay at least 80% of what they were making on their Trade Act of their trade affected employer. So, for example, Boeing, we see a lot of people from Boeing right now. They kind of consistently are in the Trade Act program with their layoffs. Traditionally, the workers that we see are highly compensated from Boeing. Let's say we're working with someone from Boeing who had their wage at Boeing when they left was $35 an hour. There's an on-the-job training opportunity that pays $20 an hour. That person would not be eligible for that because that's below the 80% threshold. Okay. Shannon, do you have anything to add on the job training? Did I miss anything?
I think that's a good summary. I think we could switch gears to occupational skills training. I've got the slides now running.
Perfect. Did anyone have questions on the job training? Nope. Okay. This slide here actually is a great recap of the occupational skills training program offered through Trade Act. So occupational skills training, it's offered by 2 colleges, one in our area, one in Salem. The occupational skills training program is offered by Portland Community College, and it's also offered by Chemeketa. Basically, with occupational skills training, the employer's location, that's the classroom for the student, for the Trade Act recipient. If you want to look at it this way, it's basically a clinical rotation with us. We have a 6-month minimum with that. So they have the OST, occupational skills training opportunity, has to be for at least 6 months. The benefit to the employer, they get help for free. They get someone there doing their work for free. The benefit to the employee or the Trade Act recipient doing the OST is we pay for their tuition to their school and any other supplies they may be needing. Workers' comp is covered through the tuition. What they do earn is a credential. Once they're done with that OST opportunity, they earn a credential. There is the option for the employer to hire them, though it is not a requirement of that program. It's very similar to on-the-job training, but instead of being paid a wage, they get a credential, and they're also receiving unemployment benefits at the same time that they're going through the occupational skills training opportunity with that employer. I think that covers it for that one. Are there any questions? Or Shannon, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. I think that was a good introduction to occupational skills training. I think we're going to have a space for questions towards the end of our presentation. So
All
I'll go
right.
ahead and shift gears to customized training. So this is the third topic we wanted to introduce that's a potential way to partner with our program. And this is just an example. Let's say a hospital needs to hire 7 CNA2s, and we have a pipeline of workers that are separating from companies that are trade impacted. And so we have workers that are looking to get into a new field or get retrained into something. And we could potentially partner with an employer that has this workforce gap as well, and look at creating a cohort partnership that if there was a potential letter of intent to hire, we could then coordinate with a community college to offer some kind of an accelerated training program, potentially something really tailored, to meet the employer's needs. And the agreement would be that trade would come in and pay for 50% of the training costs, and the employer would commit to the other 50%. And if depending on the nature of the skill gap, and like if it needed to be a combination of classroom and then hands-on learning getting onto the work site later, if there was enough of a skill gap, we could potentially make the case to do the cohort training partnership idea and then get this group all graduated together, and then starting on the job training where there's that wage reimbursement component. So we would of course investigate to say, like, normally would they come in with this community college credential and no experience and you would hire them, or would you typically want them to have the credential and some experience, and on the job training can make the difference of calibrating them to be the employee that you need them to be to solve your workforce needs. So it's a unique aspect of the Trade Act program that I think has a lot of flexibility for planning. And so we just are so thankful to have the opportunity to come present to you and just plant some seeds and be able to share our contact information. So Les here is a great person to chat with if any of these things you'd like to follow up with after today's meeting and learn more about how we can partner to meet your needs. Any questions for us?
There is one in the chat, Shannon.
Can you read that for me?
How long are displaced workers eligible for these programs? Would someone have an opportunity to complete a 2-year degree and then do on-the-job training?
That's a great question there. So what I would suggest is obviously we're going to look at the situation holistically, and sometimes we're leveraging different partnerships to meet a certain need. Typically our training programs have like 130 weeks of classroom training available. So that's like a 2.5-year period. If classroom training could finish in 2 years, and there was still that need for on-the-job training that would meet the skill gap need and get them hired in, we have potentially on the table some room left where we could do a mixed training plan of classroom training, get the degree, and then an on-the-job training towards the end. So if that wasn't trade participating with the on-the-job training piece, there could be the occasion where we have other partner programs that also do on-the-job training. And so maybe trade's paying for the classroom training. And if there's not room left in that training program, we can look at see what the possibility to blend on-the-job training offered by another partner into the mix. So I think that that's something that we could think about, solutions-based depending on the need.
Good morning, this is Sean Moore from Workforce Southwest Washington. How would we get connected to the folks in your pipeline that are interested in healthcare to perhaps align partnerships or training opportunities for our healthcare partners?
I think a starting conversation could be with Les. So are you thinking like you already have a need identified? Like we need this kind of training. We need these types of folks exiting out of training in specific areas and coordinate that type of arrangement where people that are out of work and they're looking for that retraining and they're trying to decide what their career opportunities are, match with what employers are asking for, that kind of a connection?
Yes.
Yeah. I would think the starting point could be with Les as a contact for the Portland area, because we can then go back to our case management team, and as people are coming in, we have a case management team that will get workers, if we have a 100-person layoff, and we have engagement of 40% of those workers coming into trade, they're all going to go through an initial assessment with their case managers, and we can be educating them about really specific opportunities to then start to match people that have certain wage expectations, to then potentially become a part of a cohort. So if it was that customized training idea, and we're trying to fill a specific job order need, we can look at a group that might be coming in, or multiple employers that are feeding in, but who's matching the interest and the skill set and the transferability of skill sets, has a skill gap, and is also eligible for benefits. So I think it's a coordination from the navigator to our case management team that is going to have the pipeline that we can then identify.
Perfect, thank you.
Great questions.
Julianne Sandoz asked, is this available in other states? Yes, it is. The Trade Act program is a federally funded program. So Trade Act is available in every single state in our country and transferable. So what that means is, let's say someone gets certified in Oregon through an employer based in Oregon. If they decide not to use their Trade Act benefits in Oregon and they're moving to another state, those benefits go with them to the other state. The parameters of the program may be different. In other words, what I mean by that is the maximum that they can spend on a participant may be different. And actually it does differ from state to state. But as far as the Trade Act program as a whole, it is offered throughout the country.
I might toss one more thing into the mix, because I know the next speakers coming on are talking about apprenticeship opportunities. Trade now can have we can do 50% reimbursement with apprenticeship wages if a trade candidate ended up with an apprenticeship hire and they're starting with an employer. We have the potential to look at on-the-job resources at that time.
Shannon, I don't know if it was just my speaker, but I kind of lost you at the end.
Oh, I can repeat myself there. It had to do with apprenticeship. So we've had a few updates to our allowabilities and eligibilities around on-the-job training. And so now we can go for 130 weeks of on-the-job training funding at 50% for apprenticeship opportunities. So if we're starting to look at healthcare apprenticeships, and then we end up with an apprenticeship hire that has trade eligibility, we could look at a pretty significant wage reimbursement connected to that type of a partnership. So that wasn't on one of our slides, but it's a new element that we have on offer.
I see one last question in the chat, and then I think we can move on. But this one is, within your pipeline, do you have any idea of what the breakdown is of education level?
Of participants coming into the trade program or coming out of the trade program?
Kelly, what was your intent with that?
My intent with that question was to look at, if entering into the Trade Act program, how many of those individuals may be college educated or hold a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree already, or a high school degree, and looking at that breakdown. I know there are some programs that can be accelerated if someone already holds a college degree, and so I was just wondering about that.
I don't have statistical breakdown for you. I think it's going to be dependent on the worker groups we're working with. So we do see a lot of IT impacts and a lot of manufacturing, but that could also impact their accounting departments. And, so you have all education levels. I would say, if we're talking like a food cannery, you could see a lot of monolingual, second grade level education level. So it really just depends on the worker group that we would potentially be currently active with.
Yeah, I totally agree with
60% of our activities in the Portland area. So I would say there are lots of degreed individuals as well.
We do see Intel is one of our employers that tends to lay off pretty regularly and qualify for trade. So you have that end of the spectrum with a lot of highly educated participants. Right now, we're dealing with a manufacturing company that laid off close to 1,700 in the Portland area. So with that one, you've got education level from high school diploma to associate's degree, maybe some with degrees, but not a whole lot. So there really is a huge, huge spectrum that we deal with.
Great. Well, thank you so much for letting us bring some information forward, just again to idea start and plant some possibilities.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Shannon and Les. And everyone will be getting a copy of all the presentations. So you will have contact information for all the presenters today. Les, Shannon, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Sure,
you.
thank you.
Sean?
Good morning. So, Amy, there we go. Just checking to you have control. We have opportunities now in the Portland and Southwest Washington area for some amazing healthcare apprenticeships, and we have two guests on the call this morning to talk about these opportunities and what they are going to mean to our pipeline for these in-demand careers. First of all, I'd like to introduce Laura and Mark from the Healthcare Apprenticeship Consortium program. They'll share their information, and then Sabrina will introduce Elaine from the Southern Oregon Workforce Investment Board and talk about their MA program. So Mark, Laura, take it away.
Excellent. I'm going to see if I have the ability to share my screen here, and hopefully I do. Let's see, share. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, great. So thanks for inviting us to be here today. I'm really excited to be at this conversation with you all. Because we are new to Oregon, and we are starting our medical assistant program here in partnership with Peace Health as one of our first employers that we're partnering with. But we're really excited to grow the program in Oregon if it makes sense for you. So I'm going to give a bit of an overview of the organization and the different apprenticeship programs we offer, knowing that medical assistant is the program that we have apprentices who have already completed the program. Okay, let me jump down here to the next slide. So we're an interesting organization. The Healthcare Apprenticeship Consortium is actually the first in the nation of a multi-union and multi-employer joint apprenticeship training committee. And we actually went that route and are excited about it because we really realized that the whole goal was to build a big enough pool of candidates that employers weren't having to steal from each other anymore. And we were encountering that a lot in Washington. And so we wanted to make sure that we had all the people at the table and everybody who could get on board and get excited about this so that we could actually share the resource. So we have a really large group. Of course, our major employer partners are Swedish and Multicare and University of Washington and Kaiser Permanente. So we have a lot of employers beyond these are the folks who actually sit on the committee. We also have other employers that we partner with. We are open to any healthcare provider in Washington and Oregon. So any healthcare provider, doesn't matter whether you're organized, not organized with the union, that has nothing to do with it. It's just whether or not you have a need and whether we can meet it. So that's who we are. And the Healthcare Apprenticeship Consortium is administered by the Training Fund. So I'm actually the executive director of the Training Fund, and we sponsor and administer the Healthcare Apprenticeship Consortium. Okay. So first, I want you to know that these are the programs that we actually have up and operational right now and the ones that are coming down the line. So we have the medical assistant program, pharmacy technician, and central sterile processing. They're already approved and running. The medical assistant we've had the most experience with so far. We're starting our first pharmacy tech cohort is happening right now as we speak. We have a lot of work that's happening around behavioral health. That's our next major initiative. I have been hosting meetings with over 40 employers in Washington State. If people from Oregon want to participate in those, I'd be happy to do that too. We had a huge demand. We already committed to building 3 apprenticeship programs that are identified below. And so those are going to be coming online in the next year. So we're continuing to grow. We also have opportunities for others that we're looking at, most likely surgical technician and others that'll be coming down the pike later. Okay, so there's a lot of details I could get into, but I only have about 7 minutes, I think it was. So I'm trying to keep it really short and simple. So I'm gonna stick to kind of the outcomes and some of the really exciting stuff. And then you can reach out to us and ask all the detailed questions if you're interested. But the most important things for you to know is with our medical assistant exam or medical assistant apprenticeship program, 100% of the people are passing their exam. I mean, that's pretty exceptional. We're really proud about that. When we opened our positions for the 20 cohorts, we had over 200 applicants for those 20 spots. So that gives you a sense of the need for this, especially in communities of color. And as you can see, over 80% of our population in the apprenticeship program are from the BIPOC community. So if you're really looking to expand opportunities for folks and you're really wanting to work on your equity, diversity, and inclusion work, this is absolutely an opportunity to do that. So some of the questions I get asked on a regular basis are about, well, how, wait a minute, this is going to slow us down. It's going to slow down my mentor. It's going to slow down my apprentice. And how are we going to make this work? And so I want to put out, actually, we have a lot of data now between us and some of the other organizations that do medical assistant apprenticeship program in Washington State. There was a study done and we have our own data. But what we've discovered is that all the apprentices are by 4 months into the program, they're at 60% productivity. That's pretty amazing. Then they spend the rest of their time on sort of the harder pieces that they learn longer term over the rest of the duration of the program. But to be at 60% productivity in 4 months is pretty amazing. And then the question we get about mentors being slowed down, the great news is that they only have to really slow down in the first couple months. And by the time they're at 3 months in, they're back to 100% productivity. The reason that this works is because when an apprentice is first assigned a mentor, they're connected at the hip. And as an apprentice becomes more and more competent in different skills and gets signed off, they can step away from that mentor a little bit as they become more competent in each of those skills. So that allows them to become more useful back at the hospital. So they're not necessarily slowing down that mentor on a consistent basis like they might be doing in the beginning. Okay, I'm going to pause. Any questions so far? Okay, all right, let me keep going. I know I don't have very much time left, but here I want to point out this study that was done by Seattle Jobs Initiative. Here's the front of the study. This just came out in the last month. And we have, this is actually one of the charts that they put together in preparation for this final document, but it gives you a sense, because this is what I get asked all the time. What's the return on investment for the employers? So I really wanted to pull that together. As you can see, in the first year of when you're hiring the apprentice, it actually does cost an employer more because you have to pay their wages and they're not fully productive. But by the second year, they're already, the return on investment is higher than bringing in someone from a traditional route. But by the third year, it's significantly higher. So you can see already the big difference just in 3 years, the return on investment that happens. You have to invest a little on the front end, but dramatically increases the investment on the long end. And I'm happy to share all that, how they got this data, what they pulled. Like I can give you the actual document and information. And on our website, we actually have a link to a video that we had the director of this program recorded a video for us around what they discovered. So that's all available on our website too. I want to read this because this is the picture that happened in 2020 and what they were, you can see it says preliminary ROI, but now when they actually came up with this study, it actually was even better than what they found here. So I'm going to just, I know this is a lot of words, so I'm going to just read it real quick. These two sentences or paragraphs really help, I think, define this. It says, the analysis suggests that hiring an apprentice is more expensive than hiring a college graduate MA in the first year of the program. However, in year 2, the apprenticeship program pays for itself, and the return on investment is slightly higher for the apprentice than for the MA graduate. Finally, with a return on investment of 40% and a net cost benefit of $72,000 after 3 years, the apprentice program is significantly more profitable than hiring a college graduate medical assistant. There's some of the data there. The difference between apprentices and college graduates is caused by the additional benefits that the apprenticeship program offers, such as larger expected output of the apprentice and increased mentor retention. Moreover, the apprentice is assumed to work for the same employer for 3 years, while a new college graduate MA has about a 50% chance of quitting each year. This entails significantly lower hiring costs over time for the apprentices compared to the college graduates. So I'm hoping this, these are some of the big questions I get asked a lot around apprenticeship. So I'm hoping that gives you a framework. We also do a lot of things to support the employers. We provide mentor training. We manage all the administration of the program. We have an app that we use for tracking the competencies on the job. It all happens automatically. We provide wraparound support. All of these things, I'm happy to talk to you, or Mark Buffet, who's our director of apprenticeship, can talk to you more details around how we can support your organization. But I just wanted to sort of set the big picture stage of why apprenticeship, the return on investment for it, and know that we have multiple occupations, medical assistant being, I'll use the word, our flagship, but we also have these other programs as well. And there we go. And there's Mark's contact information. I'm putting him on the hook. So questions, thoughts, comments, anything that I didn't answer that I should have answered, because I know I didn't have much time. So I was trying to stick to the big picture.
For the overall program, what are the hours that the student actually is involved in classroom? Do they get college credit? And then again, I think this is a 2,000-hour apprenticeship like everything else is, correct?
Yes. So this one is a 2,000-hour apprenticeship program, which is equivalent of 1-year program. We do have college credit attached to all of our apprenticeship programs. They will be able to continue their education. It will be transferable credit that they can continue on and get their AA degree and continue on in whatever program. We are supplemental instruction. So we have a 288-hour program. So it's the classroom time is pretty extensive. We did that intentionally. We wanted to make sure that we had a lot of good hands-on lab time. And what we do, we actually have virtual classrooms all across Washington. We can set up virtual classrooms anywhere. Right now they're in Washington State. We could also do that in Oregon. And what we do is when we have a lab that needs to occur, we actually send the instructor to that local region who hosts a location where we have the hands-on lab where they get to practice those skills. And so we can make that happen anywhere. And the beauty of the program, the way it's structured, is then we can have apprentices. We could have 5 apprentices from Portland. We could have 3 from Eugene. We can have 5 from Bellingham, Washington, and 6 from Spokane. And they can all be in the same classroom because we do a hybrid learning program where they can do online interacting with the instructor. And then when it comes to labs, we send somebody there to actually help them do the labs.
So Laura, with this program, what kind of support do you help with in terms of prepping the employer, the mentors, to accept the medical assistant apprentices?
Yeah, great question. So we do a lot of work with the employer on the front end. There is front end work that needs to happen in terms of really designing a well-structured on-the-job training. What we do is we provide you with what they, like, all the information you need to know around what are the competencies that they need to learn, right? And we actually teach the mentors this. So the mentors know how to go about not only how to mentor, but what it is that they have to achieve. So we have a tracking system, like I mentioned, this app, it's called Working Hands. And in this app, how it works is we have identified what the competencies are. The apprentice is responsible for, as they're learning their competencies, they go in and they have to say, this week I spent X number of hours learning about whatever on the job. That automatically gets sent to the mentor and or supervisor, who then has to verify that Tiana said, yep, that's correct. And then that automatically gets sent to us, where we do all of the tracking, and we have to maintain all those records and submit them to labor and industries. So that structuring, how to manage that, how to track all that, we help the mentor and the employer understand how all that works and help manage that with you. The piece that we also need to talk about as an employer coming in is, how do you want to rotate the apprentice, or do you want them to be in one place? So for example, with Kaiser Permanente, they decided that they wanted to make sure that their apprentices had an opportunity to do some geriatric and to do some pediatrics and to do, so to have some experience in other types of clinicals that maybe their home location didn't have. So we helped them set up a rotation plan so that the apprentices could get that experience. When we say that an apprentice has to have a mentor, but it doesn't have to be the same mentor every day. So the beauty of it is you can have a mentor that they're working with at one point, and then you're saying, but I want them to learn from the best person around geriatrics. So then you have them be a mentor with that other person for that duration while they're learning geriatrics. So their mentor can rotate as they rotate if you want them. So we help you think that through and figure out what might work best in your location and in your situation.
And I'd like to highlight what Mark said in the chat, that the participants that complete this through the HCAC sit for the national exam and then are eligible for the Washington MAC certification, which is key to the success for MAs in Washington State.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
There's also a comment in the chat. Were you going to read that one, Sean, from Kelly at the Oregon Center for Nursing? Is there relative consensus among our employers and unions about which trainings are most needed? Are there any trainings that you've tried to develop that have faced resistance either from the unions or employers?
No, there has been across the board consensus like this. It's one of the things that I'm really excited about with the Healthcare Apprenticeship Consortium is really we're filling this need that's so dramatic. I would say out of all the programs, the one that we've struggled with the most is essential sterile processing, only because when we started that, we had multiple employers who were all excited and they had committed. And you can imagine most employers don't need 100 central sterile processors. They need a few of them. And that's why our model works, is because we can have a few here, and we can make a cohort. But we had that all arranged when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, all those employers said, wait, we can't tackle this right now. So they backed out of that. And so we haven't run the central sterile processing program yet, only because they're now coming back to the table and starting to say, okay, we're getting ready to redo this. And that's really been the only issue we've had. In terms of determining the occupations, it's been overwhelming consensus on, okay, the biggest need was medical assistant, clearly. And now we need pharmacy tech. And pretty much any occupation that somebody brought to us and said, if we could show enough data that the need was real, then we go and build it.
There's a couple other questions in chat. So do the students take A&P and medical terminology, etc.?
Yeah. So they have, actually, Mark, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I answered it in the chat. The anatomy and physiology and medical terminology are kind of foundational versions of the content that comes in the standard MA, A&P and medical terminology academic classes, which are usually often separate classes for those academic versions, and they're merged into the regular courses. But they do that, and then we kind of make up for that being somewhat shorter because they're on the job for 2,000 hours as opposed to just a 160-hour clinical for the academic MAs.
Thank you. And then one other one. Are you looking, and this is from Kelly, are you looking at open positions, time to fill to determine need, employment projections from the state?
Yeah, so it's a combination. So great question. I'm usually the one who brings the Employment Security Department data to the room, and I'm the one who's pulling all that and bringing it to the room. And then the union, actually, they have their own database that they're using to pull, and then the employers bring their information. So it's been really exciting and cool to work as a group on this effort. And as I said before, there's been consensus, but we absolutely use the Employment Security Department data. So far, it's been Washington State data to really drive those conversations and make sure that we know, is the occupation in demand? Is it something that pays enough money? Is it, does it fit the qualifications of what we're looking for, which is really just an opportunity for people to get into a field where they could continue to advance, right? So we do a lot of work on our organization really wants more RNs. Like that's a huge push for us. And we see as much as we can help people just get into the medical field, we're trying to fill in that medical field as much as we can, in order to then, we know some of those people are going to want to transition on to be RNs as well. So we have an interest in both the entry level and the higher level programs. I'll add one quick brief thing, which is that in service of this, we actually have a program called IHAP, which is the Introduction to Healthcare program. And it's a 7-week program that includes 3 weeks of, we partner with community-based organizations to get people to come to a class to see, is healthcare even the right thing for you? Or maybe it's the perfect occupation for you. And do basic skills training, like helping them, show up to work on time. How do you dress? How do you talk? All those kinds of things. Followed by, we have a nursing assistant, certified nursing assistant program that we offer actually through virtual reality. And we have that program that they can continue on to from that initial, they can get their NAC and go on. So we're looking at this as a whole spectrum. And how do we make sure we can get people in the door and then keep them moving up?
Thanks, Laura. Really appreciate your time, Laura. Thank you so much. Great information, Mark. Thank you so much. You guys have some questions in the chat if you wouldn't mind. I see Mark answering as many as he can. You can go in and answer those questions. We'd really appreciate it. So I'd like to move on to the next presenter. Elaine, are you ready? This is Elaine Jennings from the Southern Oregon Workforce Development Board, and she's going to present another option for a medical assistant apprenticeship.
Hi, good morning. Can you all hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, you're great.
Thank you. Appreciate that. My name's Elaine Jennings, and I'm with Allied Health West and Southwestern Oregon Workforce Investment Board. And thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time this morning. With me this morning is Kyle Stevens, our Executive Director for the Workforce Investment Board, and I've asked him to be tech support and drive my PowerPoint, as well as help monitor the chat. And then also we have Angie Webster, who is our instructor. And I'm hoping that we can answer all of your questions in the short time that we have. Registered Apprenticeship Program for Medical Assistant. We are the first program in Oregon. We started 2 years ago in 2018. And prior to that, we were responsive to employer needs in our region. We assisted over 200 medical assistants who were currently working in the field, but who had not been certified. And Angie Webster was able to get that program up and running as a prep course. And over 96% of the folks who had been working in the field were successful when they sat for the exam after working with her in prep. So if you would, next slide, please. So very similar to the previous presenter, ours is also a 1-year program, 2,000 hours of on-the-job training and 156 hours of online related training. At this point, we have federal grants that are covering all of our costs related to the apprenticeship program. So there is no charge to either the apprentice or the employer. Next slide, please. So at this point, we have registered over 125 apprentices since inception. This is a picture of Salita. She's one of our first apprentices through the program, and we recognized her on National Apprenticeship Day. Recently, I was able to do a dive into our data to look at our registered apprentices from 2020. And despite COVID and the slowdowns and layoffs, I'm very happy to let you know that 94% of the 53 apprentices that came on board with us last year are still on track to complete. And many of those folks were laid off for a little bit of time, but they're back and were able to get caught up. We also have a 100% pass rate on the CCMA, and we're also very proud of that. I think that that speaks highly to the degree to which apprenticeship really matches people's ability to work and learn at the same time. Next slide, please. So this is Allison Green, and she graciously agreed to tell you a little bit herself about the apprenticeship program, and let's see if it'll work. Thanks so much, Kyle.
Hi, my name's Allison Green, and I wanted to make a short video and thank Allied West Medical Assistant Apprenticeship Program for allowing me to participate. I have been working as a certified medical assistant for the last 2 years. However, I've been with a psychiatrist for the last 5 years. This apprenticeship allowed me to apply for a job at a higher wage. I'm now currently seeking to receive my RN, and I just wanted to give some standout points very quickly. You can work from home. You have all the support you need, no cost for tuition, no cost for books, and like I said, you get to study online. I want to give a shout out to Miss Angie, Miss Elaine for always being at the other end of the phone and the email, and I would recommend this program for anyone that would love to receive their certified medical assisting. Another shout out to Allied Health West Medical Assistant Apprentice Program. I had a great time, had a blast, went through it with my grandson and several coworkers, and we all passed. Yay! Talk to you soon. Thank you. Hi, my name's Allison.
Oh. All right, thank you. So this is our footprint thus far in Oregon. As you can see, we're fairly active in multiple counties throughout the state. We began in Coos, Curry, and Douglas County, and we have since spread throughout. We can participate with any employer, and we have currently interest in the central region. We were talking with Eastern Cascade Works Source just last week, so we're hoping to turn those white counties there on your map into green. We are also able to participate anywhere within the Portland area. We have approval already at the statewide level for those counties. Some of the employers we're currently working with are Samaritan Health Services in Lynn, Lincoln, and Benton counties, as well as Aviva Health in Douglas, and out on the eastern side, Grand Ronde Hospital. Next slide, please. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Angie Webster. She is our master's level trained nurse, and I'm hoping she can tell you a little bit more about the online related training.
Absolutely. Good morning. I just want to do a sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So as Elaine mentioned, I've been involved with the Workforce Investment Board in Oregon since the beginning, prior to starting the apprenticeship program. And we've experienced great success, and I've enjoyed it every step of the way, as I think our apprentices have too. The training program that we have is twofold. There are didactic modules, online learning that the apprentices complete throughout the course of their year. And it's structured in such a way that employers can hire at any point in that year. There's no delay there. They can get started as soon as they're ready and the employer is ready. And the content is exactly as you would expect it to be for a medical assistant program, based on the comprehensive text that we borrowed from the local community college, and has worked really well for the employers. We've customized it, added, deleted, kind of based on what our employers have given us feedback on. The second part of their learning are the clinical skills day, lab days, if you will. And pre-COVID, those were in person, of course. We've moved those to virtual lab days, and it experienced great success there as well. It's a really nice way to blend what they're learning online every week with their experiences on the job with their employer. And also I can weave in what I anticipate they'll see on that NHA exam throughout the year, especially some of the harder concepts that may come up or that they may not be actually working on in their employment setting, such as EKG monitoring. We can continue throughout the year to hit on those things so they're successful. The skills that we cover, injections, PPE, donning and doffing, those skill-based things that you would normally expect, vital signs, sterile field preparation. But I think the most robust piece of those skills days, and even the didactic online piece, are how did we develop that rationale behind what it is that they are doing, how we expand on their contribution in the work they do for their providers around establishing a medical home for their patients, helping with patient education, satisfaction scores, how to prevent burnout, HIPAA. We have some great, robust conversations during that time. A&P medical terminology is foundational. We have built some Canvas modules that apprentices can choose to participate in if they need. A lot of times we're grabbing folks that have been in healthcare and they don't need that, but if they do, we have that available. And then we also have mentor materials, a toolkit that we provide to employers that really help to choose great mentors, preceptors, and how to do that in a successful way to match them up with apprentices' personalities. I think that's all that I wanted to cover. I'll be available for questions, but I may have to pop off right at 10:30 and can let Elaine pass anything along if they come up.
Thank you, Angie. At this point, that's pretty much it for us with our presentation. This is my contact information, and I would welcome your phone calls, texts, and/or emails. I do work from home, but I'm happy to be responsive to anything that you might need to help fill in more of the information that you'd like.
Elaine, you mentioned that the grant was paying for this. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? How long that's going to be available to employers and what actually that saves them?
Sure. So the federal grant is completely paying for all of the administrative costs as well as our instruction. And that's about a $2,000 value to an employer. In addition to that, there's no cost, as we mentioned, to apprentices. And along with all of their online training, we also cover the cost for them to take the CCMA exam. And we also provide an online package that helps them to get ready to do that. That includes 6 practice tests. And we really encourage them to make use of those practice tests. We find that they're very successful when they participate in that way. The grant itself is active through June of 2022, and we're not sure what will happen beyond that with regard to federal funding. But we've been very fortunate to have that to help us to expand as far as we've been so far.
I'm trying to see. I can't get into my chat. Amy or Sean, can you look to see if there's any questions? Elaine, the other thing that I can add is the Workforce Development Board is offering anyone who's interested in going into an MA apprenticeship program a medical terminology course as well. So we have actually apprentices that are in a medical terminology course right now in anticipating an apprenticeship position.
Yes, thank you, Sabrina. I think that's a really nice pre-apprenticeship kind of module that helps folks get ready.
So in response to your question, Sabrina, I didn't see anything in the chat.
Okay.
But somebody's just notified that maybe our chat functions have changed during the meeting. So I don't know if there's technical difficulties going on that I'm unaware of. So maybe if you have a question, do it the old-fashioned way, raise your hand or something to that effect. Or we have the raise hand function in the reactions button as well, if you have that enabled.
Yeah, maybe that's why I can't see any chats, because something's going on. I don't know. Okay. Did anybody else have any questions for Elaine? Elaine, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's it. Kyle, if I missed anything, feel free to chime in. I do think that apprenticeship, as we've both spoken to, has been highly successful for employers, and it does meet the needs. We also work with our local community colleges and have partnered with them. And what we find is that hand in hand, we're both able to help fill the pipeline.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. Thanks, Kyle. Let's see, was there
Can I ask a
else?
question really quickly, Sabrina?
Yes, of course.
So, Elaine, are you planning to just continue to focus on medical assistant? Are you looking at developing any other trainings in any other specialties?
We looked at Surge Tech last year, but we ran into some difficulties here in the state of Oregon because of legislative changes that needed to happen. So we are still tracking on that. And then more recently, we have been working with our local employers regarding CNA because we know that that's a need that consistently emerges for employers. Thank you.
Okay, we're actually on time. I can't believe it. You guys have been great. Thanks, Elaine, so much.
Thank you.
Angie, Kyle, thank you. Really appreciate your participation today in presenting. So the next speaker is going to be from Southeast Works. This is Tim Finnegan, and he is going to talk about CareerWorks medical program. Tim, you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you so much. Nice to see everybody here this morning. I will share what I've got here. All right. I am going to talk about CareerWorks Medical today. I recognize some names of the folks who are here today, so some of you may know a little bit about our program. But CareerWorks Medical, we launched back in the fall of 2019. We ran through a couple of trainings and then something happened in 2020. I can't quite remember. And we had to put a pause on training for a little bit. But we have recently relaunched our training fully online. So to give you a little bit of background on what CareerWorks Medical is, what you're seeing here on the screen is our flyer. CareerWorks Medical is an 8-week training. Doesn't cost our participants anything except their time. And our goal is to offer them training for non-clinical positions in healthcare. We target diverse communities, low income, low to moderate income communities for this training. Populations that are underserved and might otherwise have barriers trying to get into employment. And our role is to really help them gain that foot in the door. But in order to make that happen, we need good partnerships with employers to help find the right positions, adapt hiring processes, and really work with us and the communities that we're serving. So the typical roles that we're looking to place our students in are like receptionist and customer service type roles, patient registration or patient access. Could be call center, could be working, on an insurance side, whatever non-clinical types of positions there may be at an entry level of employment. We started training on the 25th of January. We're going to be offering our next training starting in April, and our application is open for that now. Our instructor is Stephanie Montgomery. Her contact information is here, and she teaches the program. She works with employers and helps to move everything along. And I'll put my contact information in the chat at the end of my presentation. So the design of the program, like I said, it's 8 weeks. And in the 8 weeks, we have 4 different modules that we cover. A lot of what we cover is really, work readiness training. That's a big part of gaining entry-level employment is just being ready to work and how to stay employed. So our first module really focuses on professionalism in the workplace. That's going to cover everything from communication to being on time and how to dress and all of that. We do offer assistance during the training. So we may make referrals to Dress for Success. We may help pay for professional attire. We'll help pay for, bus passes or gas cards if it's going to help them get to work on time when they're scheduled. So we can provide that kind of assistance through our program. Our second module really is the introduction to the healthcare field. And again, this is I can't stress it enough, for entry level non-clinical positions. So it's really the basics of healthcare and what it means to work in a healthcare environment. So they're going to get some basic idea of culture, some basic medical terminology, a basic introduction to privacy and HIPAA, and working with healthcare consumers. And then our last two modules, again, go back to the employment piece, talking about staying employed, what that means for longer term career growth. And then our last couple of weeks of our 8 weeks of training is employment preparation. We are actively applying for jobs. We're building resumes and cover letters, and starting to work with employers on developing positions. That's the design. We also offer ongoing support after the program. Once the 8 weeks is over, we hold a graduation, and then we hold a hiring event. And the goal is to have employers at the hiring event who are ready with positions, who are willing to interview our students, our graduates, and maybe even make at least preliminary offers pending background checks and drug screens and all the usual things that go into the hiring process. But we offer then a year of support to our graduates following their initial employment. So knowing that we really stress through the program the professionalism required to stay employed and grow in their career. We also want to make sure that once they are hired, they're not just left flapping in the wind. That if they are experiencing some difficulties on the job, or maybe even at home, that might keep them from going to the job, that we have a career navigator that can help them process through those kinds of things and help them stay employed. But it's not just working with the graduate, it's also working with the employer. So, aside from, maybe specific issues that come up with HR that can't be discussed, we want to make sure our employers know that this support is there for our graduates, that if they are seeing that employee having some difficulties on the job, they can always refer them and remind them of this support, or the employer can reach out to us directly and ask that we step in a little bit more, or maybe have something specific to work with that graduate on. A big piece of our program is really the employer involvement. The program really doesn't work without that. We have a sister program called BankWorks that we've been running for 5 years, and we have a solid group of about 9 sponsoring banks, and they work with us every cycle of this training, and they participate in the classes. They come in, they give presentations, do Q&As with our students. It gives the banking employer sponsors a little bit of a feel for who we're working with. And then we invite many of them back to do mock interviews with our students during the training. And then of course they are engaged with our graduation and our hiring event. And they will interview all of our candidates, sometimes regardless of whether they have positions open or not, recognizing that this kind of practice is essential for our students to become employed. And many of our sponsors will make offers at our hiring event. And we've launched, I was just looking at the numbers the other day, we've launched over, I want to say about 180, close to 200 graduates into banking careers in that program. And we're looking to really replicate that with CareerWorks Medical, and have a a good foundation of employers who want to be engaged with the program, who really see the need to work with these underserved, diverse populations and help them get their foot in the door in the healthcare field. So we're looking for employers to partner and come in and talk to our classes and participate in our mock interviews, participate in our graduation, and participate in our hiring events. So I have a couple of documents here that we are part of what we call our employer toolkit. This one is specifically geared towards recruiters, and I'll send these all out. I'll send them to Sabrina, who can distribute them to all of you. But this is on the recruiting side, how to get involved in the program, information about how can we complete applications to your institution, and we've had employers flag applications for CareerWorks Medical, or in our sister program with BankWorks, they'll flag them so that they're not automatically looked over through an applicant tracking system. So there's lots of different ways on the recruiting side to get involved, and the recruiters really can kind of take up the torch within the institution and talk to hiring managers, or get hiring managers connected to myself or to Stephanie, so that we can talk about this program in more depth. So that's what this document is. Engaging. Sorry if I'm scrolling too fast and making you dizzy. So a lot of it is about placement in the right type of position as well. We've learned that through our other program over the years, that it's really important for good job matching, and that's where it's important to be engaged with the program, not just with the participants, but be engaged with our staff. We hold regular meetings, usually quarterly, with our employer partners to get some feedback, to talk about what could improve this program, the types of jobs that are a good fit, because we don't want to set our graduates up for failure by applying to the wrong kinds of jobs. So it's important to stay involved, and that's a great way for recruiters to be involved with us. The other piece of our toolkit is for executives. So one of the long-term goals of this program is to have employer sponsors financially, like we do with our BankWorks program. The goal around sponsorship is not just to keep the program running, but as a mark of working with Southeast Works as a community-based organization, helping this population to have training like this and it not cost anything to them. But what we do with our BankWorks program is that our sponsors essentially they're the ones that get preference for hiring. They're the ones that are invited to the graduation, to our hiring event, and they get first shot at our graduates. After the graduation, it's free for all. Our graduates can apply anywhere. They can apply to any bank at that point. And with CareerWorks Medical, we want to replicate that in the long term. Right now, we're really looking at who are going to be our employer champions, who is going to engage with us. We welcome any and all employers, from small clinics or dental offices to large hospital systems. And eventually what we want to see is that employer sponsor piece as a way of really rooting this program in the community. And so that's more or less what this executive piece of the toolkit is, for those who may be making sponsorship kinds of decisions, or donation decisions to community-based organizations. I think I've covered everything. Is
Tim?
there any questions? Yeah.
Tim, could you maybe share us? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I know Stephanie knows tons of them. Can you give us a success story? Do you have one on the top of your head?
Oh, I don't have one off the top of my head. Let's see. You know, our last class graduated a week before everything shut down last year. But our first class graduated in December of 2019. And so we are coming up on, for many of them, for those who are employed, a year of employment. And that's, you know, the first 30 to 90 days is kind of that critical time of whether somebody's really going to like the job or not. But when somebody reaches that 6-month mark and then that 1-year mark, you know, we're thrilled with them, because getting into employment, learning a new job, especially for the population that we work with, reaching 1 year of employment consistently, that's a success. So, you know, where I don't have a specific example, in looking at our numbers the other day, we have at least, I think, 4 people who are coming up on their 1-year work anniversaries.
Does anybody have any questions for Tim?
Hi, this is Kathy Reynolds at Legacy. I raised my hand. I don't know if it can be seen.
I see it.
We joke at work that it's good hand hygiene. Ironic in this era. Tim, thank you for this. So I work at Legacy Health. I'm the director of recruitment here, and we're really interested in like learning more about the program. One of the pieces, and it may not be to answer directly here, maybe we follow up separately, is connecting around our job requirements. So I was just looking over, we have 2 roles that look aligned with what you're describing. One is in our hospitals called patient access, and the other is in our clinics called client services support, I think. We do tend to recruit people with specific experience and with specific medical terminology. And so in order to match people effectively, I wonder how we can best connect to make sure that we're not setting them up for a rejection.
Yeah, yeah, we can connect on that, and you know, maybe loop in Stephanie, our instructor. She could share some of our curriculum pieces with you, so you can see what we're teaching.
That would help, because what we want to do is figure out who our partner hiring managers would be so we can educate them. And the other piece I would have, and this is not specific to this program, but we've had some people go through some other programs, is I was just looking at an application from one, is helping them represent what the program is in more detail in their application, because I've noticed that managers don't know what it means. And so there's a little bit of the, how do we know that a person's applying so we can support them and connect to the hiring manager, but what can we do in the front end with the manager and with the candidate to help draw that out?
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a good conversation to have with Stephanie. And when we talk about those kinds of, you know, regular feedback sessions, you know, that's the kind of information that we need to have, because you know, Legacy may not be the only employer that needs that. And with a new program, you know, when you see CareerWorks Medical on a resume, it's like,
what's
okay.
That? Yeah.
So,
and the other piece, I was talking with one of my team members about, one of our recruiters about this the other day, is sadly we tend to poach from the smaller health organizations. So there might be more success for a person to grow their skill set in a smaller, we've actually seen veterinary clinics, we've seen small medical practices, and then again, like I said, sadly we poach from there as they grow their skill set, because we have much more of that acute setting where that experience matters. So there may be a way that we can even help coach on where do we typically recruit people from, so we can even help target them to those employers.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yep. And we try in our recruiting process, we try to bring in individuals that have at least some level of customer service experience, you know, maybe a year or so of some kind of customer service. So they're not coming in a complete blank slate. They've got some amount of skill. And we also recognize that this is an 8-week program, and we can't change everything in 8 weeks for somebody. So if somebody's got maybe some additional significant barriers, it might not be the right time to do this. You know, we're looking at it as almost like, you know, somebody comes in with, you know, some experience in customer service, and they need just that additional bit of polishing and help to get them, you know, ready to join a healthcare employer.
Thanks. And if I can hog the mic another second. So given that you went online, which I think is really powerful, is your throughput higher? You know, less worrying about how many seats in a classroom? Can you serve more?
We still, I mean, we could, but we took this first online class. We wanted to keep it fairly small as a pilot. So I think we started with 15 students. You know, we also look at it as, you know, because it's not just the training, it's all the support and the kind of case management that goes along with it. You know, where if we just did training, we could train 100 people at a time, sure, but I'd burn my case manager out in about 10 minutes. So we need to, you know, have some parameters around that piece.
That makes complete sense. So yeah, I'd love to connect afterwards. Sabrina and Sean and everyone got my contact info.
Perfect.
Any other questions for Tim? Amy, was there anything in the chat?
There is, but I think one of them got answered at asking if it's in person or online instruction, and I believe Tim talked about that. And another one was asking about if it includes healthcare interpreting, which I believe he also answered in the context that no, it does not, to my understanding. But Tim, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, there's nothing specific in the curriculum around healthcare interpreting. You know, the intent here is really that entry-level foot in the door. If that's a career path that somebody wants to potentially take, you know, we can, I think sometimes the best route is get in the door, you know, what maybe it's as a receptionist or doing registration or call center, and then start to build your career path from there. And, you know, certainly we look for candidates, you know, for us, good candidates are bilingual or multilingual, just in the roles that they're going to be in doing direct customer service. So I think that, you know, that could definitely be a career path, but the training as it is doesn't necessarily set somebody to go directly into a healthcare interpreting job.
Okay. And also the medical terminology that I mentioned earlier, there is a medical terminology course available in Southwest Washington as well. Of course, we include Clackamas in ours, and we offer that medical terminology class to any of our customers that want it or need it for their career path. So somebody in the medical terminology course right now could go into CareerWorks Medical in the spring. Actually, I think I have 2 people that are interested in that. So just so you know, there are some other courses that we can offer them, or they may have taken in the past themselves. So did anybody have any more questions for Tim? Tim, thanks so much. Appreciate your time. And I know we have contact information for everybody that's going to go out. Did anybody have any questions for anybody, any of the other presenters that might still be on the line? Okay. I will take that as a no. Sean, do you want to take it from here?
Absolutely. So on April 21st, we're going to be sponsoring, we being Work Systems Clackamas Workforce Partnership and Workforce Southwest Washington, a regional hiring event. We have 50 employer booths available. And in those 50 employer booths, we will be representing healthcare systems, both patient and non-patient facing roles, long-term care, dental health, behavioral health, and pet health. So we are working on developing a list for employer involvement. Because we are representing the region, we are looking for rural participation as well as metro area participation in this. One of the questions that we have for this group that we need feedback on is how long should the event be and when should the event take place, morning or afternoon? In the past, in Vancouver, we had a hiring event. It went from 4 to 7 p.m. Because we were targeting individuals who were currently working, as well as the students from Portland Community College, Mount Hood, Washington State University, and Clark College's programs. And that seemed to be really well attended, great employer feedback. But because we are now in a virtual world, we need feedback from you, the employers, on when we should run that event. So in the chat, if anybody has any feedback, 2 hours or 3 hours, morning or afternoon, and what that time frame might look like, we'd love to have you share that. Employers will be sent registration. We will be doing job seeker outreach through the schools, through the general workforce, connections with unemployed and transitioning folks, as well as through social media outlets to attract those that are currently working. Go ahead.
Sean, I'll just also add, for larger employers, Sean had, we have some experience with job fairs, virtual job fairs, and we thought for larger employers such as hospitals or anybody else that might have multiple locations, we're going to give you an opportunity to have more than one booth. There was some bottlenecks last time because you can divide them by occupations or locations. It seemed like they were not always talking to the right recruiter. They just had to kind of get in line. So for instance, like a big hospital, you could have maybe up to 4 booths, and then you can divide them up by location, occupations, however you wanted to do it. So just keep that in mind as well. I think that was the only thing that I thought of that you just missed, Sean.
Perfect. Thank you, Sabrina. So for next steps, the Say Hey event with Partners in Diversity, it's a virtual event. It is targeting individuals who are underrepresented and diverse populations in our community. This is a professional event. It is amazing. Many on this call have been involved in that in the past. So if you're looking for connecting, networking, building social media or social networking presence for your organization or individuals in your organization, I recommend checking it out. We are also working on a regional advancing workforce equity quality jobs, an initiative that is focusing on employers who are above, say, the standard in terms of maybe benefits they offer or support for diverse groups or the way that they're targeting and developing training within their organization. This is going to be across the board, and it's going to help us focus our investments on training and support services for individuals who normally don't get a chance at some quality jobs. Sabrina, do you want to talk about the resource development? Hello, Sabrina.
Sabrina,
Okay.
you're on mute.
Once a day, right? Okay. So we talked about a resource development committee a couple of months ago, and we've kind of put it on the back burner just because we've had so many other things kind of rise to the top. But what we're looking at doing is something we think is unique and will be very beneficial to everyone. And it's to put a committee of employers and organizations together for us to develop kind of a library of resources that we have available in healthcare. So things that workforce boards can do, things that workforce centers can do, things that employers can do. Where are our grant writers? Who has funds for certain things? Who has diversity projects going on? This really strong resource so we can help each other. And when grant opportunities come about, we don't have to sit here and go, oh my gosh, okay, which one of our employers or organizations fit nicely into this grant, right? Because grants always are written very restrictive. We can go to our resource library and look and say, oh my gosh, Legacy has a program like this. That'd be a perfect partner. Oh, look at this. Oregon Center for Nursing has nursing simulation projects going. They'd be great for this grant. And then we can look at where our grant writers lie and where resources, what partners we should call in, what educators we should call in, and also have letters of commitment and support already online, written, some templates. So when we get these opportunities, we know what employers would be willing to sign on, what organizations would work best for. So just kind of building this resource center, if you will, virtually. So we're going to be working on that. So we just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention again. We think that would be a great place for some of the, I mean, just like COVID, when this happened, if we would have had this resource library right there, it would have really helped us in some of the initiatives that came down. So just keep that in mind. If you're interested in being on something like that, let one of us know. We'll probably reach out to several of you because we want to make sure we have employers, educators, organizations, good representation of the of healthcare. So anything else I should add, Sean, Amy, to that?
No, that's great. Based on, we have a minute left. Amy, talk about your opportunity. Can't hear you, Amy.
Her once a day. Uh-oh.
So Amy has an opportunity for someone to be on the board for the Clackamas Workforce Partnership, and she's looking for a healthcare representative. If anybody is interested in learning more about what that role might be and how it will affect Clackamas Workforce and partner with Amy, please reach out to her.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that okay?
I think that's great. Yeah, Kat, she can tell you the time investment it would be and what your role would be. I know, Kathy, are you still on the state board? Yeah. So, there's local boards and state board. Kathy Reynolds from Legacy is on the state, but this is an opportunity to be on the local workforce board if you're interested. So someone in the healthcare industry.
So thank you all for coming. We appreciate your support, your feedback, your input, your partnership. We have save the dates coming out for the rest of the year. As you are looking at developing your strategic initiatives and looking at grants and training opportunities, please reach out to us. We are willing beyond belief to partner with you and support your organizations. And it is 11 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shout out to the presenters. Thanks again, you guys. Have a great weekend.
Really, thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
Amy, Sean, I have another meeting, but can we connect later?
Yeah.
Okay.